The night did not feel like it belonged to the living. A hush had settled over UKEJE, thick and unnatural, stretching between the huts, curling through the trees, pressing against the walls of sleeping homes. Even the crickets, the ever-present guardians of the dark, had fallen silent. But something was moving, something unseen, something waiting. Ifunanya stood at the threshold of her home, staring into the inky blackness, her fingers clenched around the worn slippers she had picked up the night before. They were just slippers. Ordinary. Dusty. Forgotten. And yet, they felt heavier than they should, as if carrying a presence that did not belong to this world. The village of UKEJE was a place where stories were woven into the very fabric of life, passed down from elders to children like sacred heirlooms. The air was thick with the scent of roasting maize and simmering pepper soup, while the sound of pounding fufu mixed with the rhythmic beat of talking drums echoed in the distance. Among the many stories told to warn children of unseen dangers, one stood out, a tale whispered by grandmothers under the moonlight, warning against leaving one's slippers outside at night. To outsiders, it may have seemed like an old wives' tale, but to the people of UKEJE, it was a lesson learned through experience. And no one was about to ignore the wisdom of the ancestors. Yet, it was in this very village that a simple mistake would unravel events that no one could have foreseen. Akwago and Ifunanya were the closest of friends, their bond forged in childhood and strengthened by the passage of time. Both had married into the same family compound, their homes standing opposite each other, separated only by a small courtyard where their children played from dawn till dusk. Akwago, the elder of the two, was a mother of 5, her laughter loud and her presence commanding. Ifunanya, though equally kind-hearted, carried a quiet sadness. After years of trying, she had yet to conceive a child. And though she loved Akwago's children as if they were her own, the pang of longing never truly left her heart. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the thatched roofs of UKEJE, Akwago called her children in for the night. "Make sure you bring your slippers inside before dark," she reminded them for what felt like the 100th time. "I don't want to see them lying outside in the morning." Her children nodded absent-mindedly, too engrossed in their play to truly heed her words. Ifunanya, watching from her doorstep, smiled faintly. "You worry too much, Akwago. What harm can a forgotten pair of slippers bring?" Akwago shook her head, her expression turning serious. "My mother used to say that when you leave your slippers outside at night, you invite things you cannot see. Spirits walk the earth in darkness, and sometimes, they take what does not belong to them." Ifunanya chuckled. "And what would a spirit want with old, dusty slippers?" Akwago sighed, knowing her friend's skepticism well. "I do not know, Ifunanya. But I will not test the patience of the gods." That night, as the village settled into slumber, the wind carried an eerie stillness. The moon, high and full, cast long shadows across the compound. Ifunanya, restless and unable to sleep, stepped outside for fresh air. As she gazed at the quiet village, her eyes fell upon a small pair of slippers lying just beyond Akwago's doorstep, forgotten, abandoned. With a quiet shake of her head, she bent down and picked them up, intending to return them in the morning. It was a small act of kindness, a simple gesture. But as her fingers curled around the worn rubber, a shiver ran down her spine. The air around her felt different, heavier, as if the night itself was watching. She dismissed the feeling and hurried back inside. Morning came with the usual sounds of village life, roosters crowing, women fetching water, children laughing. Ifunanya, brushing off the previous night's unease, grabbed the slippers and made her way to Akwago's house. "Your children forgot this again," she called as she stepped into the courtyard. Akwago turned, but the moment she laid eyes on the slippers in Ifunanya's hands, her face drained of color. "Where did you get those?" Ifunanya frowned. "They were outside last night. I picked them up so they wouldn't get lost." Akwago's hands trembled as she snatched the slippers from her friend's grasp. Ifeanyi, these are not my children's slippers. These belong to no one. A chilling silence fell between them. The weight of Akwago's words settled like a stone in Ifeanyi's chest. But that's not possible, she whispered. They were right outside your door. Akwago's eyes darted toward the village elder's hut, her breath coming in quick, shallow gasps. We must go to Mama Ozioma, she said urgently. Now. Ifeanyi hesitated, her heart pounding. Akwago, you're scaring me. It's just a pair of slippers. But Akwago was already marching toward the elder's compound, clutching the slippers like a cursed artifact. Ifeanyi had no choice but to follow, dread creeping up her spine with each step. Mama Ozioma was the oldest woman in UKEJE, her wisdom sought by all, her words treated as law. When they arrived, she sat outside her hut, grinding herbs with slow, deliberate movements. Without looking up, she spoke. What troubles you, Akwago? Akwago, breathless, held out the slippers. Mama, these were outside my house last night. But they do not belong to anyone in my home. Mama Ozioma's grinding stopped. Her eyes, clouded with age but sharp with knowledge, settled on the slippers. The silence that followed was suffocating. Then, in a voice heavy with warning, she said, You have brought the slippers of the wandering ones into your home. Ifeanyi swallowed hard. The wandering ones. Mama Ozioma nodded. Spirits who walk in search of what was stolen from them. A forgotten name, a lost path, a severed destiny. They leave their belongings where they are seen, waiting for someone to claim them. And once you do, they claim you in return. Ifeanyi's breath caught in her throat. But I didn't know. I didn't mean to. Mama Ozioma held up a wrinkled hand. It does not matter what you meant, child. The exchange has already been made. The question now is, what would they take from you in return? The weight of the words settled over Ifeanyi like a death shroud. She had never believed in such things, had dismissed the stories as mere superstition. But as she stood there, with the village elder's gaze piercing into her soul, she knew one thing with absolute certainty: she had made a terrible mistake. Akwago grasped Ifeanyi's arm. Mama, what must we do? How do we stop this? Mama Ozioma's face was unreadable. There is only one way. But it will not be easy. And it must be done before the next full moon, or the wandering ones will take what is owed. Ifeanyi's mouth went dry. And what is it that they want? Mama Ozioma's lips pressed into a thin line. A life. Ifeanyi's knees nearly buckled. Akwago tightened her grip. We will do whatever it takes. Just tell us what must be done. The old woman nodded slowly. Then listened carefully. As the wind howled through the trees, carrying whispers only the spirits could understand, the three women sat in the dim glow of the elder's hut. The night had only just begun, but Ifeanyi knew one thing: she would never look at a pair of slippers the same way again. The air inside Mama Ozioma's hut was thick with the scent of burning herbs, the smoke curling lazily toward the thatched roof as the elder prepared for what was to come. Ifeanyi sat rigidly on a woven mat, her mind racing with the weight of the warning that had just been spoken. Akwago paced behind her, wringing her hands, the slippers still clutched in her grip as though they might suddenly disappear. Mama Ozioma, her movements slow and deliberate, stirred a clay pot filled with dark liquid, the fire beneath it crackling softly. The wandering ones do not take kindly to interruptions in their path, she murmured. And now that you have disturbed them, Ifeanyi, you must set things right. Ifeanyi's voice trembled as she spoke. But I do not even know what I did. I only picked up a pair of slippers. How can something so small anger the spirits? Mama Ozioma's sharp eyes lifted to meet hers. Because what is small to the living is never small to the dead. You did not just pick up a pair of slippers, child. You accepted an offering. And when you accept an offering from the wandering ones, they see it as an invitation. Akwago gasped. An invitation for what? Mama Ozioma sighed heavily, turning her attention to the calabash bowl beside her. She scooped a handful of powder from it, sprinkling it into the bubbling pot before continuing. For them to take something in return. The wandering ones were once souls wronged in life. They walk in the shadows, searching for what was lost. Sometimes, they leave things behind in hopes that someone will find them, take them in. But the moment you pick up what they leave behind, you have entered into a contract you did not know existed. A trade. And they will come to claim their due. A cold shiver ran down Ifeanyi's spine. What do they want? What will they take? Mama Ozioma's gaze darkened. A life, child. And if nothing is done, it will be yours. The words hit Ifeanyi like a physical blow, her breath leaving her lungs in a sharp gasp. Akwago rushed to her side, her voice shaking. Mama, there must be another way. Ifeanyi meant no harm. She should not have to pay with her life for a mistake. The elder nodded. There is a way. But it is not simple, nor is it without risk. She gestured for Akwago to bring the slippers forward, and as she laid them on the ground before Mama Ozioma, the old woman examined them carefully. These slippers do not belong to anyone in this village. That means the spirit attached to them is not from here. To break the bond, you must return them to where they came from. Only then will the wandering ones be satisfied. Ifeanyi's brows furrowed. But how will I know where they came from? They were just there, outside Akwago's house. Mama Ozioma traced a finger over the worn soles, her voice eerily calm. The spirits will show you. But you must be willing to see. She reached for a small gourd filled with dark liquid and held it out to Ifeanyi. Drink this. Ifeanyi recoiled. What is it? It will open your eyes, the elder replied. You must see through their words to find the path back to where the slippers belong. But be warned, what you see may not be meant for mortal eyes. Akwago gripped Ifeanyi's hand tightly. You do not have to do this alone, she whispered. We will face this together. Ifeanyi swallowed hard, her heart hammering in her chest. She had never believed in spirits before. She had dismissed the warnings, laughed at the old tales. But now, sitting in the dimly lit hut with an elder who spoke of things beyond human understanding, she could no longer deny that something unnatural had taken root in her life. With a deep breath, she reached for the gourd and lifted it to her lips. The liquid was bitter, thick like honey but sharp as fire. It burned as it slid down her throat, and within moments, the world around her began to shift. The walls of the hut flickered, bending and twisting as if caught in a slow-moving wave. The sounds of the village faded, replaced by low whispering, voices speaking in a language she did not understand. The shadows lengthened, deepened, and then, suddenly, she was no longer in Mama Ozioma's hut. She was standing in a place she did not recognize. The air was thick with fog, the sky a deep, endless black with no stars. All around her, twisted trees stretched toward the heavens, their branches clawing at the empty sky. And in the distance, she saw them, figures drifting silently, their forms shifting like smoke. The wandering ones. They did not walk, nor did they float. They simply existed, moving without effort, without sound. And in their midst, lying in the dirt, was the same pair of slippers she had picked up the night before. A whisper, soft but urgent, brushed against her ears. Return them, return what was taken. Ifeanyi's breath hitched. She tried to move forward, but the ground beneath her feet felt like sinking sand, pulling her down with every step. The whisper grew louder. Return them before the full moon. The shadows around her began to close in, And just as she felt the cold grasp of unseen hands reaching for her, she heard a voice, a familiar voice calling her name. Ifunanya. Ifunanya, wake up. Her eyes snapped open, and she found herself back in the hut, Akwago and Mama Ozioma kneeling beside her. Sweat dripped from her forehead, her hands trembling violently. I saw them, she gasped. I saw the wandering ones. They were waiting. They want the slippers back, but I don't know where they came from. Mama Ozioma handed her a cloth to wipe her face. You have been given a gift, child. The spirits have shown you where they are bound. But now, you must find that place in the world of the living. Akwago frowned. How? Mama Ozioma reached into a small bag and pulled out a smooth black stone, placing it in Ifunanya's palm. Take this. Hold it in your hand as you walk through the village. When you draw near the place where the slippers belong, the stone will grow cold. That is where you must go. Ifunanya clutched the stone tightly, determination settling into her bones. And once I find the place. What then? Mama Ozioma's expression darkened. Then, child, you must face whatever is waiting for you there. And pray that the wandering ones accept what is returned to them. The next morning, Ifunanya and Akwago set out, the stone clutched tightly in Ifunanya's hand. With each step, her heart pounded, fear clawing at the edges of her resolve. She had never wished for this, to be caught in something beyond her understanding, to be at the mercy of spirits she had once believed were nothing more than bedtime stories. But there was no turning back now. As they walked, the stone remained warm in her palm. The village was waking, oblivious to the nightmare unfolding in its midst. But then, just as they reached the edge of the forest, Ifunanya felt it, a sudden chill spreading from the stone, seeping into her fingers like ice. She stopped. Here, she whispered. This is the place. Akwago looked around, confusion etched on her face. But, this is just the old abandoned shrine. No one has used it in years. Ifunanya's grip tightened around the slippers. Then why do I feel like something has been waiting for me here? Akwago swallowed hard. Then let's not keep it waiting. With that, they stepped forward, unaware of the horrors that lurked just beyond the threshold of the forgotten shrine. To the abandoned shrine loomed before Ifunanya and Akwago, its once grand pillars now crumbling under the weight of years. Thick vines coiled around the stone like serpents, and the air carried the scent of damp earth and something older, something forgotten. The stone in Ifunanya's hand grew colder with each step, until it burned with an icy intensity that sent chills up her arm. She swallowed hard, her fingers tightening around the slippers. This is the place, she whispered. This is where they want them returned. Akwago hesitated, casting nervous glances at the darkened doorway of the shrine. I do not like this, Ifunanya. The elders say this place was abandoned for a reason. It was once a house of worship, but the gods turned away from it long ago. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Some say it became a house for other things. Ifunanya exhaled slowly, steadying her breath. Then we must be careful. But we have no choice. The wandering ones will not leave me alone until this is done. She took a cautious step forward, her bare feet pressing against the moss-covered stone. The moment she crossed the threshold, a gust of wind roared through the shrine, scattering dried leaves and sending a shiver through her bones. Akwago gasped, clutching Ifunanya's arm. Did you feel that? It's as if the air itself is watching us. Ifunanya nodded, but she did not stop. The whispers had returned, soft and distant at first, but growing louder the deeper they moved into the ruined temple. They called around her ears like unseen tendrils, speaking in hushed tones, in words she could not quite understand. But one thing was clear, she was not alone. As they reached the center of the shrine, a massive stone altar stood before them, its surface worn smooth by time. Strange markings covered its base, some faded beyond recognition, others etched deep into the rock like scars. Ifunanya placed her palm on the altar, feeling the rough surface beneath her fingers. The moment she did, a vision flashed before her eyes, a blur of figures cloaked in white, kneeling before the altar, their voices raised in song. Then, darkness. Screams. The vision twisted, revealing shadows slithering through the temple, the worshippers' faces frozen in terror. The last thing she saw was a pair of slippers, these very slippers, left behind on the altar as the final worshipper fled into the night. Ifunanya gasped, staggering backward, the vision vanishing as quickly as it had come. Akwago rushed to her side. What happened? What did you see? Ifunanya's breath was shaky. This place, it was abandoned because something terrible happened here. These slippers belonged to someone who never made it out. Her hands trembled as she looked at them. And now, they want what was left behind to be returned. Akwago glanced around, fear clouding her eyes. Then do it, Ifunanya. Let us be done with this and leave this place before whatever is watching decides to make itself known. Ifunanya stepped forward, carefully placing the slippers on the altar. The moment she did, the whisper stopped. Silence crashed around them, thick and suffocating. Then, the temperature dropped, their breaths turning into visible mist. A low hum filled the air, vibrating through the stone, through their bones. And then, the shadows moved. From the corners of the shrine, they emerged, figures draped in tattered white robes, their faces obscured by a darkness that defied the flickering lights filtering through the cracks in the ceiling. The wandering ones. They glided forward without a sound, their presence pulling the very warmth from the air. Akwago whimpered, pressing herself against Ifunanya. They are here, she choked out. Ifunanya fought the rising panic in her chest. We did what they asked. The slippers are returned. They must be satisfied now. But the spirits did not stop. They surrounded the altar, their shadowed faces lifting as though sniffing the air. Then, one of them turned toward Ifunanya, stepping closer, its form shifting like smoke. When it spoke, its voice was a whisper of wind through dry leaves. You brought them back. But the debt remains. Ifunanya's stomach dropped. Debt? No, that was the trade. I returned what was lost. You should leave me now. The spirit tilted its head, and though she could not see its face, she could feel its gaze piercing through her. The trade was never yours to make. The one who left them behind, she is gone. The debt is now yours. Akwago shook her head violently. No. You cannot do this. She did what was asked. The balance should be restored. The spirits shifted, their robes rustling without wind. The balance is broken. A life was taken. A life must be given. Terror gripped Ifunanya's throat. No, please. The spirits raised their hands, and the shrine trembled. The ground beneath them cracked, and from the shadows, something darker began to rise. A voice, deeper than the others, filled the air. Choose. The one who bears the debt must stay. The other may leave. Ifunanya's blood turned to ice. They wanted a life. And if they did not get it, neither she nor Akwago would leave this place alive. Akwago's grip tightened on Ifunanya's wrist. No. I will not leave you. We will find another way. Ifunanya's heart pounded as she stared at the spirits, at the dark void growing beneath them. Then, suddenly, she understood. The debt had never been about the slippers. It had been about what they represented. Someone had abandoned this shrine, had fled when they should have stayed. That soul had been lost to the wandering ones, and now, they wanted to replace what had been taken. But there was another way. Taking a deep breath, Ifunanya stepped forward. If the debt must be paid, then take what was lost, she said firmly. The memory, the history. Restore what was taken. Let the shrine remember. The spirit stilled. The whispering returned, but this time, it was different. Curious. Ifunanya placed her hands on the altar again. You were forgotten. Left behind. But now, you are remembered. Let that be enough. Let memory take the place of flesh. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the spirits began to retreat. The air warmed, the darkness receding like a tide pulling away from the shore. The voice spoke one last time, softer now. The debt is acknowledged. The memory remains. Go. And just like that, the wandering ones were gone. The sleepers, too, vanished from the altar as if they had never been there. Akwago let out a sob of relief, collapsing against Ifunanya. I thought we were going to die, she whispered. Ifunanya, still shaking, managed a small smile. So did I. As they stepped out of the shrine, the morning sun breaking through the trees, they both knew they would never speak of this night again. Some things were better left in the past, with the spirits who now had what they wanted. And from that day forward, neither of them ever left their sleepers outside at night again. The morning sun bathed the village of UKEJE in golden light, yet for Ifunanya and Akwago, there was no warmth in its embrace. The events of the night before clung to them like a second skin, the whispering voices of the wandering ones still echoing in their ears. They had thought it was over, that by returning the sleepers to the shrine, the spirits would be appeased. But the memory of the final words spoken by the spirits haunted them both. The balance is broken. A life must be given. Ifunanya knew deep within her that the wandering ones were not finished with her, not yet. They had retreated, but they were watching, waiting. And the debt had not been paid. Akwago sat beside Ifunanya on a small wooden stool outside her hut, her hands gripping her knees. We must go back to Mama Ozioma, she said, her voice low. She will know what to do. Ifunanya nodded, though fear gnawed at her insides. She had barely slept, her dreams filled with shadowy figures drifting at the edge of her vision, their whispers growing louder each time she turned away. She could feel them. They were closer than before. The village had begun to stir when they arrived at Mama Ozioma's hut. The old woman was already awake, sitting outside and plucking the leaves from a bundle of bitter herbs. She looked up as they approached, her knowing eyes settling on Ifunanya. You have seen the truth now, haven't you, child? She said before either of them could speak. The wandering ones are not satisfied. They still wait for what was promised. Ifunanya swallowed hard. But I did what they asked. I returned the slippers. Why won't they leave me alone? Mama Ozioma let out a long sigh, shaking her head. Because it was never about the slippers. It was about the soul that left them behind. That soul is lost, trapped between the worlds, and until it is set free, the balance will remain broken. The wandering ones are not just searching for what was taken, they are searching for the one who left them. And until that soul is reclaimed, the debt will remain. Akwago's grip on Ifunanya's wrist tightened. Then how do we set it free? The old woman reached into a small clay pot and pulled out a bundle of dark powder. You must summon it. You must call upon the one who was lost and give them the chance to cross over. But be warned, summoning a lost soul is no simple task. They do not always remember who they were. And some do not wish to live. Ifunanya's breath came fast. And if we fail? Mama Ozioma fixed her with a piercing gaze. Then the wandering ones will take what is owed. And that means you. Silence fell between them, heavy as the midday heat. Ifunanya wanted to protest, wanted to say that she had never asked for any of this. But she knew it would do no good. The spirits did not care for excuses. They only cared for balance. That night, Ifunanya and Akwago returned to the abandoned shrine, their hearts pounding in unison. Mama Ozioma had given them the ritual instructions, lines drawn in ash, a circle of protective herbs, a candle lit with the flame of remembrance. Ifunanya kneeled before the altar, her hands shaking as she sprinkled the powder into the fire. It flared up, burning blue, casting eerie shadows along the cracked stone walls. She closed her eyes and spoke the words Mama Ozioma had taught her. Wanderer, lost and forgotten, hear my voice. You who left your path unfinished, who left behind your steps in this world, come forth. Come forth and remember. The wind howled through the shrine, and the temperature plummeted. Akwago gasped, grabbing Ifunanya's shoulder as the shadows at the edges of the room began to move. And then, slowly, a shape began to form. A figure, hazy at first, flickering like a flame, but growing more solid with each passing second. A young woman stood before them. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with confusion. She was dressed in a flowing white garment, the fabric torn and tattered, and at her feet lay the very slippers Ifunanya had returned. Who calls me? The woman's voice was barely more than a whisper, as though it had not been used in centuries. Ifunanya's throat was dry, but she forced herself to speak. You left this behind, she said, gesturing toward the slippers. The wandering ones have been searching for you. They want to take a life in exchange for the one that was lost. But we can help you. We can help you cross over. The woman's brows furrowed, her gaze darting to the slippers. For a moment, she seemed confused. Then, as if the weight of memory had suddenly returned to her, her expression twisted in horror. No, I cannot go. I cannot leave. Akwago stepped forward. Why? Why do you still linger? Tears slipped down the woman's cheeks. Because I was betrayed, she whispered. Because I was left behind. And because the one who did it still walks free. Ifunanya and Akwago exchanged glances. Who left you? Ifunanya pressed. The woman lifted her face, her expression shifting from sorrow to fury. The priest of this shrine. He promised to protect me, to hide me from those who sought my life. But when they came, he abandoned me. He left me behind to die. And now, my soul cannot rest. Ifunanya felt the weight of her words settle deep in her chest. If we find him, if we bring him to you, will you be able to cross over? Will that satisfy the wandering ones? The woman's gaze darkened. Yes. But be warned, he has long since left this place. He has taken a new name, built a new life. He walks among the living as though his past does not exist. If you seek him, you must be prepared to face what he has become. Akwago swallowed hard. Then tell us his name. The woman hesitated, as if saying it aloud would give it power. And then, in a voice that sent chills racing down their spines, she whispered, he is known to you as Elder Obina. Ifunanya felt as though the air had been stolen from her lungs. Elder Obina. One of the most respected men in UKEJE. A man they had known their entire lives. A man who had sat in judgment over others, who had led the village prayers, who had always seemed beyond reproach. Akwago's voice was barely above a whisper. It cannot be. He is an old man. He is wise, respected. And he is a liar, the woman cut in sharply. He abandoned me to die, and now, the wandering ones wait for justice. Bring him to me, and the debt will be paid. But if you fail. Her gaze flickered toward Ifunanya. Then they will take what is owed. The flames in the shrine flickered, and the woman's form began to fade. Find him. Before the next moon rises. Or the wandering ones will find you. And then, she was gone. A terrible silence filled the air. Ifunanya turned to Akwago, her heart pounding. What do we do now? Akwago exhaled shakily. We do what we must. We find Elder Obina. The two women stepped out of the shrine, the weight of their task heavy on their shoulders. The spirits had given them one last chance to set things right. But they knew one thing for certain. Elder Obinna was hiding a terrible secret. And before the next moon, they would uncover the truth. The weight of the truth sat heavy on Ifunanya and Akwago as they left the abandoned shrine, the air thick with the echoes of the lost spirit's words. Elder Obinna, the man they had known, respected, and trusted, was not who he appeared to be. He carried a dark secret buried beneath years of deception, and now, the wandering ones demanded justice. Ifunanya's breath was unsteady as she clutched Akwago's arm. What if the village does not believe us? What if he denies everything? Akwago's jaw tightened. Then we will make them believe. We cannot let fear stop us. If we do nothing, the wandering ones will come for you, and I will not stand by and let that happen. They returned to UKEJE under the pale light of dawn, their footsteps heavy with uncertainty. The village was beginning to stir, smoke rising from cooking fires, the air filled with the scent of roasting plantains and groundnuts too. Children ran between huts, unaware of the storm brewing in the hearts of the two women. As they approached the elders' compound, Akwago turned to Ifunanya. Are you ready? Ifunanya took a deep breath. No. But we have no choice. Elder Obinna's hut stood at the heart of the village, its walls adorned with carvings of the gods and spirits he claimed to serve. The man himself was seated on a wooden stool outside, peeling an orange with slow, deliberate movements. His white beard caught the morning light, giving him the air of wisdom he had always projected. When he saw them approach, he smiled. "Oh, my daughters, what brings you here so early?" Ifunanya clenched her fist. "We need to speak with you, Elder Obinna." "It is important." The elder studied them carefully, his hands never stopping their slow, methodical peeling of the orange. "Then speak." Akwago wasted no time. "We know the truth. We know about the shrine. We know about the girl you left behind." The orange slipped from Elder Obinna's fingers. For a moment, the only sound was the crackling of distant fires and the chirping of birds. Then, slowly, the elder straightened, his face betraying nothing. "I do not know what you are talking about." Ifunanya stepped forward. "Do not lie to us, elder. She remembers. The wandering ones remember. And they demand justice." A flicker of something passed through the old man's eyes, fear, guilt, something darker. But it was gone in an instant, replaced by a carefully crafted mask of calm. "You are mistaken. I have done no wrong." Akwago's voice rose. "Then explain why the spirit of a woman, abandoned in that shrine, calls for you by name. Explain why the wandering ones threaten to take Ifunanya's life if justice is not served." A murmur began to spread among the villagers who had gathered to witness the exchange. They whispered among themselves, casting glances at the elder, at the two women who stood before him with fire in their eyes. Obinna's grip on his walking staff tightened. "These are dangerous accusations. Do you understand what you are saying?" Ifunanya nodded. "We understand that the past does not stay buried forever. We understand that the truth will not remain hidden. And we understand that if you do not face the wandering ones, they will come for me instead." The elder exhaled sharply, his shoulders sagging. He looked at the growing crowd, at the faces filled with suspicion and curiosity. Then, in a voice so low it was almost a whisper, he said, "Come inside." The inside of the elder's hut smelled of aged wood and medicinal herbs. Shelves lined with old scrolls and ritual objects surrounded them, the dim light from a single oil lamp casting long shadows. Obinna sat on a woven mat, gesturing for them to do the same. "I never meant for this secret to follow me," he murmured. I thought if I left it behind, it would die with the past." Ifunanya's breath hitched. "So it is true. You left her there." The elder closed his eyes. Her name was Nena. She came to the shrine seeking refuge, fleeing from those who wished her harm. She trusted me to protect her. And I failed. His voice cracked, his fingers twisting together. When they came looking for her, I was afraid. I told them she was not there. I told them to leave. But when they threatened to burn the shrine to the ground, I made a choice. I left her behind, hoping she could hide. Hoping she could escape. A tear slipped down his wrinkled cheek. But she never did. Akwago's hands trembled with anger. You let them take her life. And then you buried the truth, built a new life for yourself while she wandered in the dark, waiting for justice. Obinna nodded, shame weighing heavy on his aged frame. I thought it was over. I thought if I never spoke of it again, the spirits would forget. But I see now that spirits do not forget. And neither does guilt. If Yonanya clenched her jaw, then you must go to the shrine. You must face her. It is the only way to make this right. The elder exhaled shakily. If I go, they may not let me leave. Akwago's voice was cold. Then you will finally pay the price you should have paid long ago. That night, under the watchful eyes of the entire village, Elder Obinna was escorted to the shrine. The villagers walked in silence, holding torches that flickered against the night sky. Ifyonanya and Akwago led the way, their hearts heavy with the weight of what was to come. The elder moved with slow, deliberate steps, as though each one brought him closer to a fate he had spent his life trying to outrun. When they reached the shrine, the air grew thick, the temperature plummeting. The shadows stretched, and then, she was there. Nena's spirit emerged from the darkness, her form solidifying before their eyes. Her face, once filled with sorrow, now burned with something else, something cold and vengeful. You have come at last, she whispered, her voice laced with centuries of pain. Obinna fell to his knees. Nena. I am sorry. I was a coward. I let fear guide me, and because of that, you suffered. I have spent my life trying to forget, but the past does not forget. I am ready to face what I deserve. The wandering ones emerged behind her, their forms shifting like mist, their whispers growing louder. The ground trembled beneath them. Nena tilted her head. Do you offer yourself in place of the dead? Obinna swallowed. Yes. Take what is owed. Let the girl go. The spirits closed in. The moment they touched him, his body convulsed. His form shimmered, as if the very essence of his being was unraveling. Then, with a final, echoing cry, Elder Obinna was gone. The spirits withdrew, their whispers fading into the wind. Nena turned to Ifyonanya, and for the first time, she smiled. Thank you, she whispered. Then, like mist in the morning sun, she too was gone. The shrine grew still. The balance was restored. Ifyonanya and Akwago stood in silence, the weight of the night pressing down on them. They had done what needed to be done. And as they walked back to the village, Ifyonanya whispered, never again. Akwago nodded. Never again. From that night forward, no one in UKEJE ever left their slippers outside at night again. And those who heard the tale knew why. Thank you for watching. Did the story remind you of anyone? Please hit the subscribe button, share this story with someone, like the video and tell me about your thoughts in the comment section.